Good morning, everybody. Betting for breakfast. I'm Mark Drumheller. I'm here with Dave Gleckner, back for another Saturday, powered by the Sharp app, the #1 sports gambling app. If you guys don't have it, make sure you download it because football season is approaching. We're getting towards the second half of the summer. Everybody's calculating their models. They're running through their win projections. They're trying to find an advantage in the market on these win totals. The Sharp app has plenty of AI models going. Our professional handicappers there are already digging in. I know we got a couple plays out there in the Discord, but I'm excited today, Dave, to go over a couple that, other ones that I had my eye on, some polarizing teams. So I can't wait to get into it. Before we get started, though, I want to start with baseball, right? So it's baseball season. I want to get your Dave's, your #1 play today because people, futures are fun. We like taking a shot, getting ahead of the market. It gives us a nice nest egg at the end of the season, helps ease the sting of the end of college football season, right? But there's people out there that want to win now, Dave. So what do we got for them in Major League Baseball today?
How about a team that just won 28-5? I mean, I know it's easy to say, and I know it's
they're hot.
Yeah, I know it's probably a quick trigger reaction here, but it's not about last night's game. That's the Toronto Blue Jays I'm talking about. Coming in today, playing the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox have not won one series against an AL East opponent all season. They came in limping into the break, getting murdered by the Yankees, and then they come out and they get beat 28-5. The team is lifeless. Today they go against Alek Manoah. If you got to see him in the All-Star game, he was one of the most colorful characters out there. They mic'd him up. He was, telling what pitches he was when he threw it by somebody. He's like, "Oh, I gassed you up." Like he's a lovable character, but you know what? He's got an arm, and he's had 2 games against the Red Sox this year. He's 1-0, 14 innings, just 2 earned runs, 13 Ks. The one game they did win when he got the win, it was 1-0. The other game they won against the Red Sox in extra innings, but he wasn't pitcher of record. But they're 2-0 in the games he's played against Boston. I think it goes that well again today. I'm not a big Cutter Crawford guy. He's okay for the Red Sox, but I think it's all about Alek Manoah today and shutting down that listless Red Sox offense. And it could get ugly quick. I mean, if coming off last night, those fans aren't going to be too happy.
So is there going to be a little fatigue from running around the bases 25 times?
Well, they pulled everybody.
That's the only question, right?
Yeah, well, they started pulling people in the 5th inning, and they still kept hitting. 29 hits, franchise record. 23-run margin of victory, franchise record. It was crazy.
Such a fun team, though. Aren't they really a fun team to watch? Like, I don't dig deep into baseball, but they're one of my favorite teams out there.
Well, they're fun, but they've actually underperformed a little bit, and I think maybe them firing the manager right before the All-Star break may have lit a fire under them, and I think you're starting to see it's go time. They were a team that was probably second, third in the futures market to win the World Series. Yankees, Dodgers, Blue Jays right there. So it's time for them to wake up. They were just on the outside looking in, coming into the All-Star break from the playoff perspective. I think they're ready to put the foot on the gas pedal. So you're right. They're fun when they start rolling, and they're starting to roll.
Buy on from the Blue Jays. So awesome stuff, guys. Baseball season still there to give us something to bet on. So make sure you check out Dave as well over at Win Daily Sports. He's got plays constantly throughout the week, writing up, making everybody money. So having a very successful season, over 60%. Am I correct?
That is correct. 66 in July, just on bets and props. But yes, it is. It's been good. Up about 30 units. So it's been a strong season. So, but
good way to spend your summer.
Yeah, there's no bragging, there's no tooting the horn. The streaks can come. You got it. You
day by day.
Yep,
that's right. Brick by brick. That's how we build this thing. So,
yep.
Dave, let's get over to our bread and butter now. College football season around the corner. We got 4 win totals we're going to discuss, 2 each, right? But before we do that, I'm going to throw you a curveball. We didn't talk about this one, but it's a hot topic out there in some spots. One of the teams I know that we're both high on is the Miami Hurricanes. Mario Cristobal comes over from Oregon and says, it's a new day. We're not doing turnover chain no more. We're all the stuff of the past, all the old Miami, get it out of here. I'm establishing my culture. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just not part of what I do, and I'm here now. So what are your thoughts on Mario Cristobal? Kind of shaking things up with the Hurricanes and letting them know that, listen, it's a new era, and we're starting fresh.
I'm going to be honest. I love it. And I didn't actually love how he exited Oregon. I thought, this is his dream job. I get it. But, to pretty much have your bags packed and wear a Miami polo before you even told Oregon you were leaving, I just thought there were some better ways to go. But this has turned my attention. Obviously, we were big on them anyway. But I think, the culture needs to change. Not that it's, the Miami intimidation factor back in the day played a big role. It really did. They were tough to play, and they brought all that kind of sauce. But the sauce they were bringing lately, it wasn't that hot. And, I think it's good for him to just say, hey, it's about what we're doing on the field first. That entertainment stuff can come second. I would love it if, he sat there and kicked everybody off the sidelines too for a little while. Like, they always tend to bring 25 ex-players, jumping around, which is great.
A lot of distractions.
Yeah, the players look up to those guys. I get it. Bring them back for the big games. But, I like culture is what wins to me in a team-based sport like college football. And if you can fix the culture first, you have a great chance to really build something special. So I like what he's doing. Turnover chains are fun, right? I do think there's some value in them, but I think it's time to get rid of it for Miami, start anew, maybe start something on his own.
Yeah, it's a little, and I'll tell you what, it's getting a little carried away. Like, people are on sidelines with chainsaws and all kinds of
They're
stuff.
dunking on basketball hoops.
It's just like, all right, come on now. A little too much for me, but it's fun. It's fun. And listen, I love the turnover chain when they started it, but like I said, I also like that Cristobal's coming in there. He's like, this is business. Let's win some games. Let's meet expectations, and then we can talk about having a little bit of fun. So, going to be an interesting year for sure for both the Miami Hurricanes and the Oregon Ducks. Another popular team that has been on the front of all the headlines, the Texas Longhorns. Sark, back for his second year after a 5-7 campaign, gets the big fish. Archie Manning, right? He comes in, got the big fish before that too with Quinn Ewers. So now he has, one hell of a quarterback room brewing there in Texas. But that's not all they got. I mean, this is a team, Dave, I want to talk about them, really hit the portal hard on the offensive end, right? They get Billingsley from Alabama. They get Nair from Wyoming, right? These are dynamic players. They can pair him with Xavier Worthy, and they're going to have people running all over field. Hall came over from the sophomore over from Alabama. So they got a ton of people. They are definitely a destination. Is Texas back? We're going to find out this year, but this is a win total. I mean, you're looking at 8.5 wins. You got, 110 on each side, over or under. And it's a pretty high number considering they're coming off a 5-7 season where they lost to Kansas 57-56 in overtime, right? So everything went wrong towards the second half of the year for this Texas team. And, there's still a lot of concerns on the defensive end. Like, they let up 28 plays last year, 20 plus yards, explosive plays, over 20 yards. They let up 28 last season. It's just a huge, and a lot of the focus has been on the offense. I get it. Offense wins, especially Big 12, but I don't know. Did they make the improvements? When you look at the offense with Nair, with Billingsley coming over, with Worthy, with Robinson, you can't forget about him, right? Best running back in the country. And now you got Quinn Ewers coming over from Ohio State. Lots of, excitement around him. And, Hudson Card coming back for the second year. So he's going to try and provide Ewers with a little bit of competition. We'll see how that quarterback battle ends up. But I think that, everybody there kind of expects Ewers to win. But I just think that this is a pretty tough situation when you look at their schedule, Dave, trying to win 9 games, to go 9-3 to cash this bet. I think this is a play to the under. I think it's a little too much too soon for the Texas Longhorns.
I agree. I mean, I did like the juice they brought in. Don't forget, they brought Gary Patterson over too as a special assistant advisor from the old TCU.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that should help the defense. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I love the juice.
Every chef needs ingredients, right? You know what I mean?
No, they do.
You gotta have the players too.
How can you jump from 5-7 to 9-3? I mean, the only way I can see that happening that easily and that quick of a transition is if you somehow have this all-star studded roster, and they do somewhat. But let's not forget what happened offensively, and let's not forget what they did in an out-of-conference schedule. They traded a gimme for Alabama. So,
Yep.
they're opening with Alabama. They only have 4 true road games, but to me, they're all tough. At Texas Tech is not an easy one. At Kansas State, no. And at Oklahoma State, that's 0-3 potentially just there. But I mean, for them to get to 9-3, they got to be 2-1 in those games. Game at Kansas will be interesting because you mentioned it earlier. What was it, 57, 56, something like
I
that?
think so. Yeah, it was very high. It was an over. It was an
It
over.
was
It
an
was a
over.
live over. It was a fourth quarter live over. Like
I like
you
what
wanted to
Kansas
hit.
is building. Like they got the ex-coach in there from Buffalo and the D3 powerhouse Wesleyan. So I like what they're starting to build over there. That's not a gimme either. So and then I mean, obviously Oklahoma is a tough one. So if you give them Oklahoma and Alabama, they can only lose one more the rest of the way with that awful defense. I'm with you. This smells under. It smells a lot like public money, and to me, it smells a lot like 2024 money. I do think Texas is building something. I think they're on the right way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love Sark. I love what
Me
he's
too.
doing there. It's going to take time. You get it. And I think that's the key here is, too much too soon. I think it's the under. When you look at the schedule, Dave, like you mentioned it, right? Alabama, week 2, right? And then, it's really week 4. I think there's like a run where you're really going to find out, a lot about this Texas team and how they're going to perform, this year. They get, at Texas Tech, you mentioned that, right? Offense going to be much better with Keatley coming over from, Western Kentucky. So, that's a team. So they have Texas Tech, and then they have Virginia, and then they have Oklahoma, and then they have a game in between before Oklahoma State. So they have, I think it's Iowa State that's in there. So that run right there, like if they drop one of those early games, Texas Tech, West Virginia, which, West Virginia is a team I think is going to be a little bit better this year. And Texas kind of has a reputation of losing those games, right? And that's really the key here. They haven't been consistent in the past. So, I think that's really where you're going to find out about this Texas team. But I think it's an under. I think an 8-4 season for Sark would be a great year, and it would cash this under bet.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I think 8-4 is definitely respectable, and it's something that Texas is going to want because under Herman and Strong, they really have not been up to expectations since Mac Brown. So they're just looking for some sort of improvement. I think 8-4 would be a great jump for Sark. 9-3, fantastic. It's just too much for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm
perfect. So I think the play there is to the under on the Longhorns, even though I feel like we're going to see special things out of this program moving forward. But let's keep it moving, Dave, with another team kind of on the other end of the spectrum, right? Not too many people are talking about this team. Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice, packed his bags for Hollywood and Lincoln Riley. He hit the transfer portal, got out of there, and that's the Colorado Buffaloes. And, an interesting team in the futures market. And sometimes these lower unassuming teams are where you find the best value.
Yeah, I mean, I was on them last year. They had a little sneaky year in that COVID season where they went 4-2, made a bowl game. The game they played really well for a while, a really good running attack. So coming into last season, there was some burst they felt, but they really didn't meet expectations. Went 4-8. The one thing they did is they won 4 games. Their 4 wins were all at home. So they were able to take care of that, but they couldn't win on the road. And I think it's going to be a little bit of the same again this season. And even worse, the home schedule's a lot harder. I think Colorado sitting at 3.5 is dropping to 3 in some markets. I think is very live for the under. They had the second worst offense in all of college football last season. I mean, you're talking about teams like Rice and others that they were worse than. And they're playing in a packed conference. And Brandon Lewis didn't give me any confidence. He's that guy. They're looking at several other, options at quarterback. And I think they're going to struggle mightily. I like the Buffaloes under. Let's look at their home games this year. Like I said, what they won 4 last year at home. This year, they're going to struggle. UCLA's coming there, Oregon, and Utah. 3 really tough teams that I think will have a potentially double-digit spread on the road. Arizona State and Cal also coming there. Cal getting better, as you noted. And Arizona State, one of those teams, like, that's probably one of their coin flips. Yep. It really is. But outside of that, I mean, when they go on the road, they're going to USC. They have some really tough games. I don't love taking under 3.5, but I'm telling you, I think Colorado has a chance to be like an Arizona of a couple of years ago, one of those 1-win type teams. They're very bad offensively. I don't think it's – and like you said, the transfer portal, they lost 13 or 14 players to the transfer portal, and one of them, Jerry Rice's son. So it's I don't think it's good news in Colorado, and I think it's a team we can definitely fade early.
Yeah, it's tough because there's some like bottom teams there in the Pac-12, like Arizona. You mentioned that were awful last year. That I really think made some improvements, and those games are going to be tougher to win. Like when you're a Colorado and you can count on those games. Like, hey, this is your games I can be competitive in. I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Arizona finished better than Colorado. Oh, you with us, Dave? We might have lost Dave for a little bit. So we're going to keep it moving here. But you heard the man, Colorado Buffaloes under 3.5. That's going to be the play from Dave. And we're going to keep it moving forward here. I got another win total with a team that is near and dear to my heart. Coastal Carolina, one of my favorite teams in the country. 2 years ago, they had that tremendous season. We won a ton of money with them. And, so they're back now. Coastal Carolina, Grayson McCall back with the team for another year. A lot of rumblings about whether he would hit the transfer portal or not, but we see him coming back. But it's a situation of where, he's back. But, as far as what does the room look like when he comes back, right? And they lost a lot of players. They only have 2 offensive linemen returning on Coastal Carolina. So the protection he's going to have is a little, not going to be the same. Now, listen, Chadwick does a great job. They're going to have a good running game again. They got some guys in there, some talent in the running back room that they're going to have to lean on. But, McCall lost all his wide receivers, and I think that's going to be a big issue when you talk about continuity and trying to win games. And on defense, they lost 9 starters. So the defense, I think, is going to take a hit. That Black Swarm defense from 2 years ago that shut down Zach Wilson and BYU and really put themselves on the map. That defense is no more. So I think this is a team that's going to really struggle on the defensive end. And, it's going to be tough, I feel like, for, Coastal Carolina to kind of repeat the success that they've been having the past couple years. So it looks like Dave is back with us. Dave, I was just talking a little bit about Coastal, a team that we love, right? The kind of, we had a ton of success with them 2 years ago. But,
he's still there, right?
Yep. Big issues with, this year as far as losing players, having to replace a lot of players on defense now. And, I think they're on under here at 7.5 wins. When we look at the odds, minus 155 and plus to the over, plus 130 to the under, I think there's value here on the under at the plus 130 with Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, I think you got an interesting point there. I think what happened we saw last year, the Black Swarm wasn't really much of a Black Swarm last year. Their defense really, I think, held them back. And they lost some really talented players on defense once again. They lost a great tight end, too, to the NFL draft. But I think they were hurt, like you said. The success of 2 years ago and the replenishment of it may not have happened as smoothly as they wanted. I think you're right. You're onto something here. Coastal, the teams over there have gotten a lot better, too, right? I mean, Appalachian looks like a team that's probably the tops in the conference this year. Really strong team. I'm with you.
They got to play it. They got to play at Marshall. They got to play, which I think is going to be a tough game, at Virginia, SMU. Like they have some game. Like I don't think the schedule's super easy. And like I said, I think the in-conference stuff, those teams are better. I think the defense is going to hold them back. And like I spoke about, like the running game will be there, but the offensive line, only 2 people returning, and all the quarterbacks, I mean, all the wide receivers are new and into the system and, had to be replaced from last year. So just lots of turnover in key positions for Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're still going to wear the Rooster proud, the fighting Roosters, but
I'm rooting for them, but I'll be betting against them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yo, my man. Yeah. Sometimes I do. I think my computer overheated. I think that's what it was. So I'm on the phone now working. Yeah.
It could be. Our guy Eric checking in, man. Big fights today, my man, Eric. Hopefully we cash in.
I got tell that beach bum to come over here and help my internet out.
Yeah, man, catch the flight, catch the red eye, Eric. Get over here, man. We'll watch these fights. But good stuff, man. Eric does a great job handicapping mixed martial arts, man. If
Oh,
you don't
he's on
follow him,
fire.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
and
does
you
an
know what I
awesome job.
like about him? He's very transparent. He'll have his
Yep.
winners and he'll have his losers. A guy you really can trust out there. But every time you look at it, he's always up. So, guy I love to
Yep.
follow with UFC.
Doing a great job. Listen, so let's go to our last team that we wanted to touch on, Dave. So Coastal Carolina, at this number 7.5, I'm taking the plus money on the under on the plus 130. I think that that's the play there. You could easily see them with a 7-5 season. Don't think that would be the end of the world for them, considering all the change and turnover. McCall, tremendous player. Can't do it all himself, right? You need a little bit of help sometimes. Listen, another team that kind of jumped on the scene last year, Michigan State Spartans. That's a team, Dave, I know that you were looking at. Mel Tucker really comes in. We talked about Cristobal coming in, changing his culture. Mel Tucker doing the same thing with Michigan State and doing a tremendous job recruiting, utilizing both the portal and, your old school recruiting methods as well. So Michigan State, I think a team, very bright future. But again, this is, a situation of where coming off a season like last year, can they repeat it in a tough Big Ten?
And I'm going to say no. We loved what Mel did last year. We were on him. I remember one of our best bets of the year was in that first week. I think they were playing
Northwestern, right? It was Northwestern. They ran all over Kenneth Walker, trillion yards. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't even close. I think they were even dogs in that game. But yeah, the loss of Kenneth Walker, obviously that's going to be huge. Peyton Thorne last year, he is returning, had I'll call it decent season. Numbers might have looked a little better, but the turnovers are really what hurt. 27 TDs, 10 interceptions, and now you lose that dynamic piece in the backfield where you're really going to have to rely on him and his arm. He's got some good weapons out wide, but I'm not a Peyton Thorne guy. And I think when you have to put pressure on him to try and carry your team in certain games this season, I think it's going to be a little bit too much for you to expect of him. And secondarily, what was the weakness of this team last year? And it was a huge, tremendous, like one of the worst in the league weaknesses. Do you remember?
Pass defense, right? No, you could throw on them.
Yeah, they brought a few transfers in through the portal, a couple dynamic secondary players, but in the end, to be able to fix that, I mean, they're good getting some pressure on you, some havoc, but if they didn't get home, that was it. You could pass all day. I think I remember Stroud having 10 touchdowns in the first half, and they had to pull him.
Dude, I think that game was like, we were on Ohio State there, and we were like, dude, they're gonna kill this team. And it was like people were like, "Oh, Kenneth Walker," and I'm like, "Okay, we'll see."
Okay.
And it was like 56-7 in the second quarter. I don't even remember. It was like,
there was like, 18 yards wide open on an 18-yard route.
Yeah, it's not even halftime. Stroud's in the shower, all right, we had a good day.
Set an Ohio State record in the first quarter. I know, and I just don't have a lot. I know Tucker can turn this thing around. I know he's throwing in pieces, but in the end, I think we're asking for a lot here. I think we're sitting at 8.5 is the total. Their schedule's actually slightly favorable, and that's why people are probably leaning towards the over here, where most of their home games look winnable outside of the Ohio State. But they got a Wisconsin team that I think will be somewhat recharged, revamped. I don't think that's an easy game for them. They do miss out on a couple of key teams, but in the end, I think for them to repeat this performance is going to be a big ask. I think Mel Tucker is building things, but I just think to make that meteoric leap and now try and sustain it is the hardest thing coaches can do, and I don't see them sustaining it. I see other teams rising in the Big Ten, and I see Michigan State. Teams like Rutgers, Maryland, I mean, you can't totally 100% call the.
I like Maryland this year. I like Maryland. I think they're going to be a play on early in the season, especially. I think it might take a little bit of time for the market to catch up to Maryland.
Yeah.
I think they're going to surprise some people.
Yeah, I do too. And I think they're building something. So a lot of these that you check the box and say are wins, I don't think necessarily turn into wins by mid-season here. So I'm going under Michigan State. I think they're good enough to make a bowl game, but I don't think they're good enough to hit their win total.
Yeah, I think that's a solid play as well. So
4 unders for us. 4 unders.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we are fading. We are fading the market. But I think that's kind of, you got to pick your spots, man. And when you look at the schedule and stuff, and that stuff can always change, right? There's variance, during the season. Injuries happen. Things kind of go sideways. But, I think, we go 4 unders, 4 teams to fade this week. And listen, the unders pay just as well. The money comes out the ATM crispy. So no worries at all with that. Just to recap, though, Blue Jays on the MLB bet of the day, right? We're rolling with the Blue Jays, Toronto. And then, 4 unders we got, right? We got Texas under the 8.5, right? We got minus 110. We got Colorado under 3.5. We got Coastal plus money under the 7.5. I think I like that one the most. And then we are finishing it off with Michigan State under, what is their number? 7.5?
8? Yeah, I saw 8 and 7.5. Yep.
Okay, 8 and 7.5. Okay, perfect. So we go under there on the Michigan State Spartans. So listen, guys, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Had a blast. More to come. I'm going to be on vacation. I got another one. I'm going to be down the shore at the beach. Dave's already there getting ready. But so next 2 Saturdays, we're going to be off. Be back after that a couple weeks before week 0. And we're going to start looking at week 0, week 1 lines, all that good stuff. So I'm going to try and get some guests in here. We're going to have a great, great season. So make sure you download the Sharp app, get into Discord, and make some money with us. That's what it's all about. It's about cashing tickets and watching good football. We're ready to do both this year. But thank you all for tuning in. Go download the Sharp app and win some money today.